In this chapter of the Bhagavad Gita,
Hmm.
Krishna drops what I can only describe as a philosophical bombshell.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive shift in perspective.
Right. He explains the threefold nature of faith, or Shraddha. And he reveals this stunning concept that your inner disposition directly shapes your worship, your lifestyle, your diet.
Pretty much everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And ultimately, your destiny. I mean, faith isn't just something you believe in, right? It's the invisible architecture of your entire reality.
It really is. It's a radical reframing of how we understand the human experience.
For sure.
Because, we often think of faith as a badge we wear or like a set of rules we just agree with.
Right, like checking a box.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
But Adi Shankaracharya's commentary on chapter 17, which is the Shraddha, Traya, Vibhaga Yoga, it forces us to look in a completely different direction.
It makes you look inward.
Yeah, it asks us to examine the very fabric of our consciousness.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to truly grasp what is happening here, we kind of have to put ourselves in Arjuna's shoes.
We do. We're back on the battlefield of Kurukshetra.
Right, and it's not just a physical war zone, is it?
No, the text refers to it as a sacred field where ideas about dharma, about duty and cosmic order are forged.
So Arjuna's looking around at humanity,
Mhm.
and he asks a question that feels like, honestly, it was ripped straight out of a modern sociological study.
It's incredibly relevant today.
It really is.
Yeah.
He basically says, look at all these people who have immense, unshakable faith. They are zealous, they are dedicated.
But they completely ignore the scriptures.
Yes, they just make up their own rules.
Yeah.
And he wants to know, what is their status? Are they good? Are they bad? Where do they fit in?
It is the ultimate diagnostic question.
It really is.
Arjuna is essentially asking about the spiritual but not religious crowd of antiquity.
Oh, wow. I love that comparison.
Right. And also the fanatics who invent their own extreme practices outside of any, established wisdom tradition.
So he expects Krishna to give him a binary answer, right? Like either they are righteous or they are sinners.
He does. But what's fascinating here is how Krishna completely bypasses that binary.
He doesn't even play the game.
Exactly. He introduces a much more sophisticated framework based on the 3 gunas.
Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas.
Yes.
Let's quickly define those for anyone who needs a refresher. So the 3 fundamental qualities of nature.
Right.
Sattva being purity, light, and harmony.
Correct.
Rajas being passion, ambition, and kinetic energy.
Yeah, the driving force.
And Tamas being ignorance, darkness, and lethargy.
Those are basically the building blocks of the material world.
Okay.
And Krishna's profound revelation in verses 2 through 4 is that these gunas completely dictate the flavor of our faith.
The flavor of our faith. I like that.
He tells Arjuna that the faith of embodied beings is born of their own svabhava.
Svabhava.
Right. And Shankaracharya is very careful to define this term.
Okay, what does he say?
Svabhava isn't just your current personality, it is the accumulation of latent impressions from past lives.
Oh, wow. So it goes way back.
Way back. It is the deep subconscious conditioning that you carry into this world.
So if I'm understanding this correctly,
Yeah.
Krishna is saying you don't just wake up one day and logically choose what kind of faith you have.
Not at all.
Your faith is like the inevitable bloom of the seeds you've planted over countless lifetimes. It's bubbling up from the deepest parts of your psychology.
That is the exact mechanism.
That's wild.
Your faith is the culmination of your soul's entire history. Krishna delivers a line that carries immense ontological weight.
What's the line?
He says, "This person is made up of faith as the dominant factor. He is verily what his faith is."
He is verily what his faith is.
Yeah.
I have to pause on that because that is terrifyingly absolute.
It really is, isn't it?
Because usually we say, I have faith in this concept or I have faith in this institution.
Like it's a separate object.
Exactly. We treat faith like a possession, something separate from us that we hold on to. But Krishna is saying, no, you are your faith.
You are the faith.
If you strip away the body, the job, the societal labels, what is left is a core composed entirely of your deeply held inclinations and trusts.
It fundamentally collapses the distance between the observer and the belief.
Mind-blowing.
And once he establishes that you are your faith, Krishna categorizes how that inner state manifests in the external world.
Because you can't just see someone's soul.
Right, but you can see what they are drawn to worship.
Oh, okay.
A person dominated by Sattva, that pure, truth-seeking energy, is naturally drawn to worship the gods, representing light, cosmic order, and ultimate truth.
So they're drawn to what matches their internal state.
Exactly.
And then there's the Rajasic faith.
Yes.
The text says people driven by Rajas worship demigods, the Yaksas, and ogres, the Raksas.
Right.
Now, to a modern listener, worshiping ogres sounds like something out of a fantasy novel.
It sounds a bit Dungeons and Dragons.
Right, so let's ground this. What is the psychological reality of Rajasic worship?
Well, think about the nature of rajas. It is restless ambition, the desire for power, the hunger for worldly success and dominance.
That's very ego-driven.
Extremely. A rajasic mind isn't interested in silent, peaceful liberation. It wants results.
It wants a payoff.
Exactly. It wants favors. So it is drawn to entities, whether you call them demigods, powerful spirits, or in a modern context, billionaires, celebrities, and power brokers that can grant material boons.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
The Rajasic worshiper approaches the divine like a transaction.
I'll do X if you give me Y.
Yeah, I will do this elaborate ritual, and in exchange, you will give me wealth, status, or victory over my enemies.
Wow. So the object of worship just reflects the transactional, power-hungry nature of the worshiper's mind.
Precisely.
That is fascinating. It's the worship of leverage.
That's a great way to put it.
And then Krishna describes Tamasic faith, which is rooted in ignorance and lethargy.
Yes, the lowest frequency, you could say.
The text says these people worship ghosts, the pretan, and hosts of dark spirits. Again, bringing this out of ancient mythology and into human psychology. What does a tamasic mind actually look like in practice?
Well, tamas is the energy of decay, unconsciousness, and stagnation.
Okay.
A mind shrouded in tamas is drawn to the macabre, to the past, to things that are dead and gone.
Like an obsession with what's over.
Yeah. Psychologically, worshiping ghosts can manifest as a deep, obsessive attachment to past traumas, a fascination with darkness and morbidity, or even a superstitious dread of the unseen.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. It is a faith completely devoid of light or aspiration. It just drags the consciousness downward into fear and illusion.
Okay, but this brings up a huge question for me.
Sure, go ahead.
If our faith is born of these latent impressions, this svabhava, and we are just manifesting the gunas we accumulated from the past,
Right.
aren't we just trapped?
I see where you're going with this.
Like, if someone is born with a heavy tamasic conditioning, a real tendency toward darkness and lethargy, are they just doomed to be a ghost worshiper?
That's a fair question.
Where is the free will in this system? It feels incredibly deterministic.
It is really easy to read it that way, but Shankaracharya's commentary provides a crucial nuance here.
Good, because I was getting stressed.
Don't stress. The identification of these gunas is not a life sentence.
Okay.
It is a diagnostic tool meant to generate self-awareness.
All right.
Yes, you may enter this life with a factory default setting that leans heavily toward rajas or tamas.
Right, your initial impulses might be selfish or lethargic.
Exactly, but the Bhagavad Gita is ultimately a manual for liberation.
It's trying to get you out of the trap.
Yes. The moment you become aware of your conditioning, the moment you realize, my desire to perform this ritual is actually just my rajasic ambition seeking validation, you introduce a space between the impulse and the action.
Oh, you become the observer of your own operating system.
Precisely that. Awareness is the wedge that pries you loose from determinism.
I love that. Awareness is the wedge.
By consciously recognizing the tamasic or rajasic nature of your current faith, you can actually begin to exert effort to cultivate sattva.
So you can steer the ship once you realize you're on a ship.
Exactly. But Krishna immediately issues a very sharp warning against trying to fake this process.
Faking it? How do you fake it?
Well, in verses 5 and 6, he addresses the people who try to bypass genuine self-awareness by inventing their own extreme, unsanctioned austerities.
Oh, right. The performative spiritualists.
Yes.
Because Arjuna's original question was about people who ignore the scriptures.
Right. And Krishna says these people who are driven by ostentation, pride, passion, and attachment take up severe disciplines that aren't sanctioned by any wisdom tradition.
And the text says they actually end up torturing the organs of their physical body.
They push themselves to extremes.
Like starvation, extreme physical pain.
Isolation, yeah. Thinking that the intensity of their suffering equals the depth of their holiness.
Like a badge of honor.
But Shankaracharya is ruthless in his critique here.
What does he say?
He meets that this non-adherence to divine injunctions is driven by demoniacal convictions.
Whoa! Demoniacal.
Yeah. They aren't seeking truth. They are feeding a massive spiritualized ego.
The imagery is brutal. I mean, the text says they don't just torture their bodies, they torture the indwelling Bhagavan, the divine presence within them.
It's a very heavy statement.
It really is.
Yeah.
What does it actually mean to torture the divine within yourself?
It means creating a state of profound, unbearable dissonance.
Okay.
The divine presence within is naturally aligned with harmony, truth, and balance.
Right.
So when an individual forces their mind and body into extreme ego-driven agony just to prove how spiritual they are to the world.
They're completely crushing their natural harmony.
Exactly. It is Rajas and Tamas masquerading as Sattva.
That is so dangerous.
They are violently subjugating their own life force for the sake of pride. Krishna is making it clear that true spirituality is never about ego-driven self-destruction.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, because Krishna doesn't keep this philosophical framework confined to high-level concepts like worship and austerity.
No, he brings it right down to earth.
He brings it right down into our mundane, everyday reality. He looks at our dinner plates.
The diet of the soul.
Yes. In verse 7, he declares that even the food we find dear, the food we naturally crave, is divided into these three categories based on the Gunas.
It is one of the most grounded, empirical tests in the entire text.
It really is.
Shankaracharya points out that understanding this categorization helps a seeker actively avoid rajasic and tamasic foods and consciously prefer sattvic ones.
So it's not just a religious dietary law.
Not at all. It's about recognizing the profound feedback loop between what you ingest and the state of your consciousness.
Okay, let's look at the actual descriptions, because they are incredibly vivid.
They don't pull any punches.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Let's start from the bottom with tamasic food.
Yeah.
The text in verse 10 describes it as not properly cooked, meaning it lacks essential vitality.
Yeah.
It is putrid, stale, specifically mentioning food cooked on the previous day.
Yes.
It describes it as remnants of a meal and completely unfit for any kind of sacred offering.
So we have to look past the literal culinary advice of ancient India here and understand the underlying mechanism.
Okay, what's the mechanism?
Why is eating stale, putrid food a spiritual red flag? Because tamas is the energy of lethargy, darkness, and the clouding of discrimination.
So it matches the internal state.
Exactly. When a person is deeply entrenched in a tamasic mindset, they are naturally drawn to food that mirrors that state. They crave food that is devoid of life force.
It's literally the ancient version of you are what you eat.
It is.
If we translate that to today, it sounds exactly like someone deep in a depressive, lethargic state, reaching for heavily processed, chemically preserved junk food that has been sitting on a shelf for a year.
That is a perfect modern parallel.
Because it has calories, but it has no vitality. It's dead.
Right. The body is craving the very deadness that matches the clouded mind. And the consumption of that food then reinforces the lethargy, creating a downward spiral.
That is such a vicious cycle.
It is. Now, contrast that with rajasic food.
Okay, what's rajasic food?
While not explicitly detailed in the brief snippet of the outline we have, the text broadly defines rajasic food as being overly bitter, sour, salty, excessively hot, or pungent.
So extreme flavors.
Yes, it is food that burns and agitates.
Food that gives you a massive spike in energy, but leaves you jittery and crashing.
Exactly.
So we're talking about energy drinks, hyper-spicy foods, things that just shock the nervous system.
Yes. A mind driven by restless ambition and passion craves intense sensory stimulation.
But that overstimulation leads to physical and mental distress.
Correct. And finally, we have sattvic food.
The ideal.
The text notes that a sattvic mind desires food that is succulent, naturally oily or nourishing, and beneficial for long life, intelligence, and mental purity.
Oleaginous was the old translation often used, right?
Mhm.
Which just means oily or rich in healthy fats.
Yes, nourishing, not dry or brittle.
Foods that sustain life smoothly without agitating the system or dragging it into lethargy.
Fresh, vital, nourishing foods.
Got it.
If your goal is to cultivate a clear, luminous, truth-seeking mind, a sattvic mind, you must fuel the physical vehicle with materials that support that clarity.
Because the body and the mind are not separate silos.
Exactly. They are a continuous spectrum of energy. If you want to upgrade your spiritual operating system, you have to change the quality of the raw materials you're feeding it.
Which is such an empowering thought.
It really gives you agency.
It does. Even if you feel trapped in a rajasic or tamasic mindset,
Yeah.
you could start changing your trajectory simply by changing what you choose for breakfast.
It's a tangible entry point into spiritual transformation.
And this idea of what we, feed our internal system, transitions perfectly into how we interact with the external world.
Yes, it moves from the internal to the external.
Krishna moves from the currency of digestion to the currency of action, specifically sacrifice and charity.
This is where we confront how we view our obligations to the world around us.
Right. Let's talk about sacrifice first.
In the ancient Vedic context, the word yajna, or sacrifice, often referred to highly specific fire rituals.
Okay.
But Shankaracharya's broader philosophical interpretation encompasses all of our daily obligatory duties.
So not just throwing grain in a fire.
No, it is the work we must do to maintain the harmony of our households, our communities, and the environment.
So verse 11 defines what makes a sacrifice sattvic.
What does it say?
It says it must be done according to scriptural injunctions, without any hankering for results, and with the firm mental conviction that it is simply an obligation.
Ah.
The internal monologue is just, it ought to be done. No expectation of reward, no desire for applause.
That phrase, "it ought to be done," is the cornerstone of a sattvic action.
Because the action itself is its own justification.
Exactly. You take out the trash because the trash needs to be taken out to maintain cleanliness.
You care for an aging parent because it is the right and harmonious thing to do.
The ego is completely removed from the equation.
And on the flip side, the text says tamasic sacrifice lacks faith entirely.
Right, it's empty.
Offerings aren't made, no respect is shown. It's just going through the motions with a dark, resentful, or completely ignorant mindset.
It's action without any underlying truth.
But I want to zero in on the concept of charity danam, because this is an area where I think modern society gets incredibly tangled up.
Charity is a profound mirror for the ego.
It really is. Verse 20 outlines the gold standard for sattvic charity.
Okay.
It says, a gift is sattvic when it is given because it ought to be given to someone who cannot serve in return.
No strings attached.
None. And it stresses that it must be given at the proper place, at the proper time, and to a proper deserving person.
The conditions are remarkably stringent if you think about it.
They are. You can't just throw money out the window and call it sattvic charity.
No, it requires discernment, respect for the recipient, and above all, a complete absence of self-interest.
Let's test this with a scenario because I want to make this concrete for the listeners.
Let's hear it.
Suppose I make a massive donation, let's say $10 million, to build a new wing for a children's hospital.
Okay, a very noble act on the surface.
Right. Objectively, that money is going to do an immense amount of good. It will save lives.
Undoubtedly.
But internally, I only wrote the check because I wanted my name in giant bronze letters on the side of the building.
Ah.
Or maybe I wanted the hospital board, which is full of influential politicians, to owe me a massive favor down the line.
So there's an ulterior motive.
Exactly. Does that selfish internal motivation ruin the spiritual value of the act, even if the external result is good?
According to the psychological framework of the Gita, it fundamentally alters the nature of the act for you.
But the hospital still gets built.
Yes, the hospital gets built and the world benefits. The universe has a way of utilizing our actions regardless of our intent.
Okay, so the world is fine.
The world is fine, but from the perspective of your own spiritual evolution, the act has fallen from Sattva into Rajas.
Because it's about me.
Exactly. Look at how the text defines Rajasic action in verse 18. If something is undertaken to earn a name, to be honored, and to be worshipped, it is ostentatious.
So the action becomes a transaction. I'm buying prestige.
Precisely. You haven't actually given anything away. You've just traded cash for social capital.
Oh, that stings.
Yeah.
That is so true.
The mechanism of sattvic charity is designed to loosen the ego's grip on the soul.
So it's about untying the knot.
Yes. When you give selflessly, you are training your mind to recognize that you are not the center of the universe.
You're dissolving the boundary between yourself and the other.
Beautifully said. But when you give for a return favor or for a plaque with your name on it, you are actually reinforcing the ego.
You're feeding the monster.
You are feeding the illusion of your own self-importance.
That is a harsh reality to face.
It asks a lot of us.
It means we have to rigorously audit every good deed we perform. If there is even a whisper of what's in it for me, or I hope people see how generous I am, the action is tethering us to Rajas.
It requires an almost frightening level of internal honesty.
Yeah.
The execution and the intention must be perfectly aligned to elevate the action to Sattva.
You give because giving is the right thing to do at that precise moment.
To a recipient who genuinely needs it, knowing they can never pay you back.
That selfless act purifies the internal organ, the mind and intellect.
It scrubs away the residue of greed and attachment, leaving the consciousness clearer and closer to absolute truth.
Wow. This theme of internal purification leads us directly into the next section Krishna discusses, which is the discipline of austerity, or Tapa.
Yes, Tapa.
We talked a little bit about the negative, demoniacal kind of austerity earlier, people torturing themselves for show.
Right.
But what does a healthy Sattvic austerity look like?
Well, the text elegantly divides austerity into 3 categories: bodily, verbal, and mental.
Okay.
While our source text snippet zeroes in on bodily austerity in verse 14, the underlying mechanism is really the same for all 3.
So it's a unified approach.
Yes. And bodily austerity doesn't mean sleeping on a bed of nails.
Thankfully.
It involves the worship of the gods, showing reverence to the twice-borns, to venerable persons, and to the wise.
Let's pause on the term twice-borns, because without historical context, a modern listener won't have any idea what that means. We're not talking about reincarnation here, are we?
No, not in the specific instance. In the Vedic context, being twice-born refers to a spiritual initiation.
Oh.
Your first birth is biological, from your parents.
Right.
Your second birth happens when you are formally initiated into the study of sacred knowledge and the pursuit of truth, usually guided by a teacher.
So showing reverence to the twice-born means respecting those who have dedicated their lives to spiritual wisdom and discipline, rather than just respecting people with money or political power.
Exactly. It's about aligning your physical posture and actions with respect for wisdom.
The text also says bodily austerity requires purity, straightforwardness, celibacy, and non-injury ahimsa.
Yes. Aligning the physical body with harmlessness and integrity.
And verse 17 defines the exact moment this discipline becomes sattvic.
Which is?
It happens when it is undertaken with supreme faith, without hankering for results, by people who are deeply self-controlled. The action is steady, it is pure.
But the ego is always waiting to hijack the process.
Always. Verse 18 brings us right back to the Rajasic trap.
Let's hear it.
It says, if the austerity is done to earn a name, to be honored and worshipped, it is ostentatious, uncertain, and transitory.
The spiritual ego is perhaps the most dangerous trap on the path because it disguises itself as progress.
Oh, man. Let's use an analogy for this one.
Go for it.
It's like the person who signs up for a grueling 10-day silent meditation retreat.
Classic example.
The Sattvic reason to go would be to genuinely quiet the mind, confront internal turbulence, and find a state of inner peace without needing anyone to know you did it.
Right. It's deeply personal.
But the Rajasic approach would be going on the retreat, enduring the silence, purely so you can come back to the office and casually drop into every conversation how incredibly mindful and disciplined you are now.
Oh, when I was on my 10-day silence.
Exactly. The physical action is identical. Both people sat in silence for 10 days. But the internal reality is completely different.
That is a brilliant illustration. This raises an incredibly uncomfortable question for anyone engaged in self-improvement.
Which is?
How do we measure our own practices? Are we tracking our progress to achieve genuine internal purification, or are we secretly tracking it for external validation?
That is the million-dollar question.
The Gita warns us that if our disciplines are performed for social clout, the results will be uncertain and transitory.
The peace won't last.
It won't. The ego will demand another achievement, another retreat, another badge of honor.
It's an endless treadmill.
It really is. Sattvic faith purifies the mind because it completely removes the audience from the equation. It is a private transaction between you and the truth.
Okay, but this raises a massive logistical problem for being a human.
Just being alive is a logistical problem.
Right, because our gunas are constantly shifting. Even if we wake up feeling incredibly sattvic and pure, by noon we might be agitated and rajasic because of a stressful email.
Very true.
And by evening we might be exhausted and tamasic. Our charity might have a tiny bit of ego mixed in. Our sacrifices might be slightly flawed. We might accidentally eat something stale.
We're human, we stumble.
If the standard for sattvic action is total selflessness and perfect execution, how do we ever get it right? Are we just doomed to accumulate flawed actions?
That is the exact anxiety that Krishna addresses at the very end of the chapter.
Oh, thankness.
He understands the fallibility of the human condition, and so he provides the ultimate corrective formula.
What is it?
In verses 23 through 28, he introduces a specific mantra, a threefold designation of Brahman, the ultimate reality, Om Tat Sat.
Om Tat Sat. It's a phrase you might hear chanted at the end of a yoga class, but I don't think most people realize the profound mechanics of what it's actually supposed to do.
Shankaracharya's breakdown of this formula is a masterpiece of spiritual psychology.
Let's break it down then.
Let's look at the components. Om is the universal sound. The text says it is uttered by those who study the Vedas to commence acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity.
So it's the starting point.
By starting an action with Om, you are actively reminding your consciousness that this action is not originating from your isolated ego.
Wow.
You are aligning the start of the process with the divine resonance of the universe.
So you are setting the frequency before you broadcast the signal.
Exactly. And then we have Tat, which simply translates to that.
Just that.
Yes, that. It is uttered to perform acts without regard for results, specifically by those aspiring for liberation.
Okay, so how does uttering that help?
When you perform an act of charity or undergo an austerity and you dedicate it with the thought of Tat, you are declaring this action is not for me, it is not for my glory, it is for that, the ultimate unnameable reality.
It is a radical psychological severing of attachment to the outcome.
Yes.
You are intentionally cutting the invisible string that ties the reward back to your ego.
You're letting it go.
Yeah.
And finally, Sat.
Sat.
Sat translates to good or existence. It denotes steadfastness in these acts.
Okay.
The text notes that even the action meant for these acts is called Sat. It represents the absolute sincerity, the grounded truth, the underlying reality of the action when it is performed with genuine faith.
So how does this work as a corrective formula? Let's use an analogy.
Let's hear it.
Think of a house with a powerful electrical system.
Okay.
Sometimes there are power surges flaws in the wiring, a sudden spike in voltage. If that surge hits an appliance directly, it destroys it.
It burns it out.
But if the house has a grounding wire, it takes that excess dangerous energy and drives it safely into the earth, neutralizing the threat.
I see where you're going.
Is Tat Sat acting like a spiritual grounding wire for our flawed actions?
That is a phenomenal way to understand it.
So it neutralizes the ego.
Let's say you are performing a duty, but midway through, you realize your mind wandered into a rejessic fantasy about how people will praise you.
The action is now contaminated.
Yes, but by recognizing that flaw and consciously invoking Om Tat Sat at the conclusion of the act, you are taking that excess voltage of the ego, that contamination, and grounding it in the infinite reality of Brahman.
You're sending it away safely.
You are saying, I am human. This action was flawed, but I surrender the entirety of it, flaws and all, to the ultimate truth.
That is so beautiful.
The supreme faith behind the mantra overrides the mechanical flaw in the action.
It is literally a formula for grace.
It is.
It acknowledges that we won't be perfect, but demands that we are sincere.
Sincerity is the key.
But Krishna doesn't leave it there. He issues one final devastating caveat in verse 28.
Yes, the warning.
What happens if you perform an action without any faith at all?
The text introduces the word Asat.
Asat.
Conversely, anything done without faith asradhya is called Asat. It is the negation of Sat.
The opposite of truth.
It means non-existent, empty, or untrue.
Krishna says that an action done without faith is of no avail, producing no good consequence here in this life or after death.
This is perhaps the most sobering verse in the chapter.
It's chilling.
You could execute a flawless ritual, you could donate $1 billion, you could eat a perfectly calculated Sattvic diet, and practice yoga for 10 hours a day.
All the external markers of perfection.
But if there is no genuine, inward-facing faith, if there is no sincerity, no actual connection to truth behind the action, it is Asat.
It is a hollow shell.
It holds zero spiritual weight. The mechanics of the action cannot save you if the internal disposition is bankrupt.
So what does this all mean?
It's the grand summation.
If we connect this back to Arjuna's original question and Shankaracharya's entire commentary, the grand conclusion is that reality is built on faith.
Faith is the foundation.
Faith is not a byproduct of our actions. Our actions are the byproduct of our faith.
Exactly. An action is only as real and only as valuable as the sincerity pulsing beneath it.
Wow.
This act of faith, anchored by the humility of Tat Sat, purifies the mind. It clears away the debris of past conditioning, the rajasic anxieties, and the tamasic lethargies.
And a purified mind is the only instrument capable of realizing ultimate freedom or liberation.
It prepares the ground for the final leap.
This ancient text acts as an incredibly demanding mirror for the modern listener.
It really does. It leaves you nowhere to hide.
It's not asking you about the theology you claim to believe in when someone asks you at a dinner party.
No, it doesn't care about your labels.
It is asking you to audit the microscopic details of your Tuesday afternoon.
Yes.
It asks, Are your daily routines driven by ambition, stress, and a desperate need for external validation?
That's Rajas running the show.
Are your evenings driven by lethargy, mindless scrolling, and a lack of awareness?
That is Tamas.
Or are your actions driven by a quiet, sincere pursuit of truth, harmony, and selflessness?
That is Sattva.
This is why this chapter is truly a simplified awakening.
It cuts through all the noise.
It cuts through the overwhelming complexity of spiritual doctrines, rules, and dogmas, and reduces the entire journey down to a single focal point: your disposition.
Cultivating Sattvic faith purifies the internal organ, preparing the intellect for the ultimate knowledge of the self.
If there is one core idea to take away from this entire deep dive, it is this: faith reflects our inner nature. Cultivating Sattvic faith leads to freedom.
It's a powerful takeaway.
Your outer life, what you put into your body, how you give to others, how you discipline your mind, is nothing more than a perfect physical reflection of your inner Shraddha.
The external world is just the shadow cast by your internal faith.
If this deep dive sparked an aha moment for you, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you.
We'd love to hear your insights.
Which of the three gunas do you see most actively driving your life right now? Are you caught in the kinetic hustle of rajas, the heavy fog of tamas, or are you finding moments of sattvic clarity? Be honest.
Confronting the reality of our current state is the first necessary step toward any real growth.
Make sure to join us next time, because we're diving into the absolute grand finale of the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 18, Moksha Sannyasa Yoga, where we'll explore the ultimate concept of liberation through renunciation.
It's going to be an incredible discussion.
But before we let you go, I want to leave you with something provocative to chew on.
Let's hear it.
Krishna stated unequivocally that any action performed without faith is a sat completely empty, holding absolutely no value in this life or whatever comes next. So I want you to take a hard look at your daily calendar. What is one specific action, ritual, or obligation that you perform every single day, purely out of habit, social expectation, or fear of judgment, completely devoid of any real sincere faith?
That's a tough question to ask yourself.
And what would actually happen if you woke up tomorrow and just stopped doing it?